It's yet another beautiful evening, if I can say. We thank God for this day. We want to thank God who has enabled us to see the beauty of today. Today is a Thursday, and we know when it gets to Thursday, people start thinking about weekend. Friday is always a funny day. I just need to be to some offices and see how people are rushing up with work so that they can go and enjoy their weekend as if they will not come back on Monday. But it is a Thursday, and here we are with our leadership and governance episode of Family Hour. Edwin Austin Mukalazi is my name. Today, we are looking at something very, very interesting, but also very intriguing, if I can say. We are comparing the old leadership styles and the new leadership style. And at the end of this discussion, we shall, you and I shall be able to tell which of the two is better. Was it the old, so that we can readopt the old ways, or we have to move on because we know a lot of things are changing, technology and very many things are coming on board. So should we stay in our rudimentary ways of running things, or we have to adapt to the new ones, and what cost comes with whatever we adopt as a style of leadership? Yeah, we have Dianah. These days, she will tell us why it has become a turn-taking. When she's around, doctor is away, and when doctor is around, she is away. But Dianah, it's a pleasure having you.
It's good to be here. Good evening, viewers. It's always a pleasure to be on the TV.
I think it's my first time meeting you this year. This month. I mean, this month, not year.
The months are running one into the other. It's only the second week of the month.
Yeah, but I mean, it's my first week. It's my first time actually this month.
Well, it's just the second week of the month, and it's always a good time to be here.
So you insist it's not a long time?
No, it's not. It's just a week. It's just a week.
Those are 14 days already.
Really? Okay. That's quite some counting.
Well, but how have you been?
I've been well. It was a good time to be away. Easter was great. Okay. I enjoyed my Easter holiday away from the usual hustle and bustle.
Okay.
It was good to be away for Easter, to just also remember the birth of Christ in a different place. It was a time to wind down and think about the first quarter of the year, how it has gone, what it has felt like. And yeah, the first quarter was not the easiest quarter. Yeah, it was not. I think March was quite a month. March felt like 6 months for me. 1 year. I kept saying the year is not moving on. But I'm grateful. I think that God has kept me. God has allowed me to see another space.
Sure.
And the fact that the quarter ended with Easter, I am just grateful.
Okay. We are also grateful that we can still share in your space in this second quarter
of the year.
Yeah, of the year. Well, so I was right when I said Happy New Year, because this is a new quarter of the year.
Oh, no one says Happy New Year in a quarter of the year. That doesn't
count.
No,
the beginning of the first quarter.
I feel it is just Happy New Month. That is it. It's just a new month, but it's just the next quarter. I think now you're thinking
Happy
about...
New Quarter?
You're thinking about the eclipse and what has happened in the past.
Yeah, maybe. But well, we are talking about the old and new styles of leadership. But we would want you to take us through the defining traits of the old style of leadership. How was it like? Or how is it like? I don't want to speak as if it was in the African tradition society.
Well, I think that old and new style are things that just about the way leadership is evolving over time. The old was a one top-down approach. One man has the authority, autocratic, controlling, power-driven. That was the old style, in such a way that everybody knew who had the final call, who had the leadership, where the buck stopped when leadership was coming. It's a very interesting way of leadership, because I think when people thought about leadership those days, everybody thought about the old style of leadership. The top-down approach means that the boss says something, they do not care about what the employees think. You just implemented what you were told to implement. That approach has happened over the years, either in government, institutions, even family, with a patriarchal society such as ours, where the father is the head of the home. He says you do. He says you follow. The wife follows. The children follow. Everybody that works in the home follows. And so that kind of leadership is very autocratic, very controlling, and it gives the idea that people are meant to walk within certain boundaries. And when they do not fulfill those boundaries, you're going to meet the person at the top. And so such a style is very interesting because it shows you the kind of person who's at the top. Because most times when we have power, most of us get drunk with power. It's more likely than not every single one of us will get drunk with power. People complain about leaders, but when you are given that position, you will see what is on the inside of you that you never thought was possible.
So everyone just needs to be given an opportunity to be there.
Opportunity. You've heard this story where they did a test of putting people in prison. It's one of the tests where they were checking on how you can push human beings, and I think habits of human beings. And so what they did is they made some people prison warders and they made some people prisoners. And I think they were given a period of, I don't know if it was 21 days, because to make a habit they say it takes 21 days. But they were given a period, I don't think it lasted, I think it must have been less than that. And then they said, and then there were strict rules, the way they were supposed to follow. It's a role play, they were just supposed to play their role. And so some people were in prisoners, they had to wear the orange jumpsuit, they had to wear the prison attire, and then the prison warders, we had to wear the police regalia. Over time, what was noticed is that the people who became the warders became very harsh. Very, very, very harsh in implementing rules, and the prisoners were broken. Their spirits were broken, or they rebelled because in certain conditions and in certain places, each of us demonstrates something that we don't know is in ourselves. And so that's the nature of when we are given power. The old style, the leaders are very authoritative. They know what the workers should do and how they should follow. They know the answers. They are the answer to everything. They are autocratic. They have control over the decision making. They make the decision. Nobody can defy them when it comes to decision making. So that's generally what the old style looks like of leadership.
Okay. Now moving away from the old style, because in the end, we shall now have a comparison between the two. What about the new leadership style? How is it unique of the old style?
The new style is quite interesting, and I think it came out because of the generations that are coming up, the millennials and the Gen Zs, who I don't tend to like too much. But the millennials, because I'm a millennial. It's very collaborative, it's democratic, it's a people-based approach. Collaborative because they don't think of people as their workers, they think of them as their colleagues. And so when you go into a meeting, they'll introduce, regardless of whether it's the boss, they'll introduce the person as their colleague. My colleague and I will make the presentation. It's not my employee or making people know their position. It's very collaborative. You and I are both bringing something to the table that makes it so different. And so the way that it works is that decision making is across the board. Your opinion matters. Your opinion is the kind that everybody will look to. It's collaborative in that nature. It's also very democratic as opposed to autocratic. So it means that you will more or less use consensus to arrive at decision making. People are involved in the decision making process. They are involved in the final vision that comes, in how they set targets and how they do goals. People have the idea that they matter because they are contributing to the business in a way that is valuable. It's also people approach based and people focused approach, in the sense that the employer is not looking for for tasks and goals at the end of the day. They care how the employees are doing. They care how the workers are doing. How are they functioning? What are they doing that can get them to the next space? And so when an employer cares about what a worker is doing, it's important, because the person is going to become innovative. They're going to become creative. They're going to feel like they own the business. And that's the new way of doing things. It's democratic, it's egalitarian, it's collaborative, it's built around people-based approach. So there's partnership between the employer and employee. It focuses on things such as emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is one of the trends that we are seeing for leadership these days, that people understand their employees. I think that one of the things that makes a valuable and a good leader is one with emotional intelligence. And this approach looks very much into things such as emotional intelligence. How is Edwin doing this morning? When he walked into the studio, what was he feeling like? It's similar to what Joseph did in the prison when he was in bad circumstances. But when he woke up that day, the scripture says that he looked at his people and saw that their faces were fallen. They did not need to say anything to him. It's the way he looked at them and paid attention to their demeanor that allowed him to see that something was wrong with the prisoners. And so he was able then to ask the necessary questions. Now, if you have emotional intelligence and it aligns with the needs and motivations and motivates the employees, making them feel valued, and eventually they are empowered to do the things that you hired them to do.
We've been to places where they say the culture of this place is this. Do you think that if someone was to come and employ or introduce these new leadership styles, would it really be easy for them, especially when people have this mind that our culture here, things are done like this and this and this? And what does that represent? Does it represent the rigidness of the system, all the conservatism of the old styles?
Culture is really set by the leadership and the leadership team and the leadership tone. Culture are the weaves, the things that weave between the systems that cannot be picked out. Say, for example, that when it comes to lunchtime, the bosses may go first to have lunch. You'll find that people will wait back until they're done, so nobody will appear. Or you'll find that culture is in this office, we pray very early in the morning, even before it starts. Or the culture is that every time you come into office, the first thing you do is to walk to the boss's office and greet them. It's not written in your contract. It's that thread that weaves through the untold structures of an entity. And you've heard the saying, culture would eat strategy for breakfast. In other words, even the best strategy cannot stand on its own. Culture matters at the end of the day. And the people who set that culture are normally the leadership, because they're not likely to move from that place, especially if you started out a business on your own and it's not somewhere where they shift you from one position to the other. And so in such a scenario, culture has to be created by the leadership. When you come in, every leader comes in with a strategy. They know the weaknesses, they know the strengths. And usually at the interview panel, they have asked them, what new thing are you bringing to the table? What is the thing that you're bringing to the table that is different from what we already have? How can you solve a problem? Because the reason you're looking for leadership outside the workspace is because you believe that they have an eyesight or they have value to add to the team that the team doesn't possess at that material time. And so that person will usually come in with a strategy to solve the problem they have been told to solve. Now, the difficulty for a leader there is you have to learn the culture before you're able to implement your strategy. Otherwise, you will fall a victim of your every plan of yours collapsing, every strategy coming undone. And so in a situation like that, where you find that the culture is rigid, the thing that you start to do is transform the culture. Even before you touch the processes, transform the culture. You transform the culture doing things such as team building. How do you get, when people are relaxed, they show you who they are. And so you put them in such a place where they are relaxed enough to play games. You'll see those who will withdraw back and say, we are too old for this.
Yeah.
You'll see those who will give the younger people to go and run. You'll see those who are competitive coming out. You will see those who are collaborative coming out. And so for you as a leader, it's time to watch those things without looking very obvious, of course. So you do a team building where you put people out of their natural zones, take them to a place where it's maybe a ropes course, obstacle course, games for team building, because these are all on the internet. No, you will not find, you'll never be short of finding some team building games. And when you do that, it's not just an activity that you need to do. You're looking to see the kind of people that are in your entity. And then you realize, who can I keep on? Who can I leave? Who needs to go? Then are people placed in a way that they're supposed to be placed? Are they suitable for the roles that they have? And you begin to understand that and look at that. Start to change the culture. We just, you can just change it by removing or putting a few things inside there. Because if you automatically attack systems, you'll get resistance from everybody, even the most collaborative people. So you start with the culture, start to inform the culture, work on things that inform the culture, things such as team building, having open door policy where you talk to people one-on-one, or having team meetings, ask people what they think. When people start to see that they are valued, and their opinion is valued. Usually what people do is walk into a space and give a sort of open check and ask people, what is it that you want? What is it the entity can give you that is not giving you at this point in time? What is it that you can? And then over time, you'll see brilliant leaders begin to replace certain key positions. Yeah. And so as you change the culture, you tackle a few systems here and there, then you bring your strategy. You would have infected even the most rigorous of places.
Okay. Now, from the discussion, I realized that both styles have both advantages and disadvantages. Now, looking at the changing trends in the world today, what would be the most effective style of leadership?
That's one, leadership changes across time. Okay. There is not one bullet that hits everything. And so to say the old or the new is the best is not going to work, especially with the way the world is transforming and changing. Now, if you look at the weaknesses and the strengths of the old style, you'll see that the old style leaders know what to do. They are so firm and they know what to do. So it will clarify for people who's in charge. No one ever has to debate who's in charge. They know where the buck stops. They know, if I cross this line, this is what's going to happen. It's the same. It's similar to a home. Everybody knows the father is in charge, hopefully. These days it can swing. Everybody knows the father is in charge. And so even when we're growing up, when they wanted to discipline you at home, at some point you'd get so used to your mother caning you, it never mattered.
Then they said, you shall report you to your dad.
So when she realized that, she would increase the punishment, say, I'm going to report you to your dad. You would fall in line. You would fall in line. Similarly, in certain spaces, when people actually invoke the authority of the person in charge, it clarifies who is in leadership, and that's a strength of the old style. The other is that there's quick decision making that happens because we know who's involved in decision making. It's the one man or the people he chooses to do, or one woman in this case, or the people that they choose to do. And so decision making is firm, and we know where it's going to come from. Then communication channels within the organization are clear. You know what is your responsibility as an employee at a lower level, mid-level, and upper level. That's the advantage, because communication is clear. It's a top-down approach, remember? And so the leader communicates, it goes down to the managers, it goes down to the people, it goes down to even the gate man, because communication is clear. So that's an advantage that you have in the old style. The weaknesses of the old style is that it's rigid. It's very, very rigid. It has rigid structures that stifle innovation or creativity. You don't have an opportunity to walk up to your boss and say, we want to do something different. Can we try something different? Is there a way that we can reduce the amount of time we are taking in the production process so that we churn out a lot more product than we have been churning out? So you don't have that opportunity. It makes employees feel that they are undervalued sometimes because nobody's asking for your opinion. But you and I both know that everybody has an opinion. And somebody said there are as many as noses and each of them has a hole in it. Everybody has an opinion and everybody wants their opinion to be heard. And so with a top-down approach, not many people are going to have their opinions hard. And so it's difficult. It's a difficult place to be. So people are going to feel undervalued. They'll feel like they went to school for nothing because they're not making a substantial contribution to the entity. It disempowers them and it leads to low morale and low productivity at the end of the day. While as opposed to the new style, the advantages of the new style are really that it encourages employees to own the process. And when people own the process, I've seen this in leadership, it's so much easier. You have less work on your desk. You have more people running with it. I was away for the Easter holiday and I could see that a team that I work with was making decisions on certain things. I saw approvals go through and I smiled because it made more sense that nobody has to wait for me to be present to give a go ahead to something else. Now, I hadn't even thought about it. I just saw it go out and I didn't even need to give my approval. I ran with it the moment I saw it. I said, very well done. And that's the idea of the new style. It encourages people to take ownership, to be creative, to become innovative. They don't feel limited by you. They know that they are not going to be castigated for coming up with their own ideas or anything. And so this kind of style is where you have a lot of coaching and mentorship, because you're coaching people to own the process and you're allowing them to become creative, to become innovative. Instead of telling them what to do, you are coaching them and giving them tools that they need to succeed. And so mentorship and coaching works so well with the new style. It works well in such a way that people feel empowered to step up in positions, and I think also the style aims at being inclusive of everything, inclusive of culture, inclusive of diversity, inclusive of things that matter in a season such as this. The only disadvantages, of course, you're going to see is that it leads to paralysis of analysis. So many times people will just be paralyzed because Adrian's point matters, Diana's point matters, the other person's point matters, the other person's point matters. So we're going to do back and forth, and we don't have a clear way of going forward, because where does the buck stop? We are trying to make sure you are all heard. It eventually affects decision making, and then it will be confusion about who is actually in charge. So is it one style versus the other that makes it better? I think that what is really the defining factor is where is the world going. When you have millennials and Gen Zs as the biggest workforce, you have no choice but to move to the new style. So how do you collaborate? The old have to now mentor the new people. Teach them the discipline that they lack so that they can excel, but don't stifle their way of leadership. So in the end, you're giving them a platform to exemplify themselves in the new leadership style. But you as the old giving barriers, boundaries, and coaching them on what they lack in their leadership style that will make them do better. I think the times that we're in are defining for us that we need to move with the trends. And so the new leadership style is what's trending now. You can't afford to not adapt by remaining in the old style.
There is something you talked about that is really very important. You said that one of the limitations to the new style is that we want to listen to everyone because everyone's voice matters, everyone's idea matters. And now we look at employee engagement and motivation, because to some people they feel motivated if they also sell something, which we don't see in the old style. How does this happen in the old style of leadership? How are employees motivated and how are they engaged?
In the old style, you'll use what you called incentives. So incentives such as they would give you a bonus for work done. I give you KPIs. I say you're supposed to reach your target. Your target is perhaps having a production of 200 people, or say for example you're supposed to win new business by bringing in 5 clients. And so I'll give you your KPIs without discussion from you. This is my expectation from you. I pay you at the end of the day. I need 5 new clients from you by the end of the year. That's the old style of doing things. So the way a leader would motivate is that when you meet the target, there is an incentive by giving you something. If you exceed the target, then you get a bonus. So you are motivated to be the mice that runs, that keeps churning up and down, because you're trying to get beyond the target, because you know, if I do, there's a carrot hanging for me at the end. If I do, there's a carrot hanging for me at the end. And so morale was grown by giving incentives. Not a necessarily bad idea, and I think the new people can learn from it. It's not necessarily a bad idea. It's just that as times change, you need to find new ways to motivate people along the way, as opposed to waiting for the end. The old style waited for the end. When you delivered, I delivered. You delivered, I delivered. So when you hit your target, I gave you something. When you exceeded your target, I gave you a carrot that was hanging. So I gave you a bonus. I gave you something that would make you come back the next year. So it's just mice running around in their thing, ensuring that they are doing what they're supposed to do. And that's why you end up with a rat race.
Well, we are taking a short commercial break. When we return, even as we're in the break, you can now tell whether you're one of those in the rat race. We are coming back shortly.